up, podcast, and welcome to the RaysFlavs Podcast Network. We have another amazing show for you today. We have, all the way from Orange County, California, Mr. Mike with Vinegar and Smoke. Vinegar and Smoke is a catering company out of Orange County, California. Mike recently won for pork ribs at the Father's Day pop-up barbecue last week. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, buddy.
Good. Absolutely. Thank you for coming. You got your wife here as well to watch over us. Make sure we don't get too crazy like we did yesterday with Grill Slingers.
Yeah, those guys can get out of hand.
What's up, Kris?
Hi.
Good. How you doing today?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. Excited to be here?
Excited.
Fantastic. We're excited to have you.
So excited.
She's like, what the heck?
A little off my element here.
This is going to be the future for you. You got a rock star you're sitting next to you right there.
Yep.
Man, Mike won, like I said, the pork rib competition. I would say it was a full competition. You had to do brisket, you had to do pork ribs, there was a chicken, there was a taco competition. And the crazy thing about this one, this was at the VFW, put on by the Foodies Corner. Is that what it was?
Foodies Corner LA, I think, is their whole handle.
Foodies Corner LA, awesome event, very tight knit. It's at the VFW in Serapis. A bunch of booths. I loved it. Most of the time, you don't want to be that many booths, but this one you do because it's a small area. Everybody's nice and tight. You're able to talk to people. You talk to one booth, you're talking to somebody on the left, talking to somebody on the right. Next thing you know, you're talking to everybody. So it was an awesome event. So we go there. We meet Mike. He immediately serves us this brisket that's incredible because most of the time I see brisket, it's sliced like comp style, ready to slice, and you're looking at putting it on your finger and dropping and seeing if the drop test and all that stuff like that. This was it was pulled brisket, which I've never seen before in my life. I love pulled pork, but to have it in my favorite meat, brisket, was incredible. What was the thought behind that, Mike?
So, one of the categories for the contest was tacos. And so when we were talking about planning for it, because we do a ton of taco parties, and when we were talking about planning for it, I thought, well, I don't want to bring separate taco meat, making all this meat.
Smart.
And I thought, well, we do brisket tacos. They're super popular, so let's just go ahead and do the brisket. And to achieve that texture, you just, let it go a little bit over what you would normally let it go to for regular sliced brisket. We pulled it at 205 and wrapped it and let it rest. And then when we opened it up, it shredded beautifully, nice and moist, into its own juices.
Dang.
And then we serve it that way.
I didn't even know you could do that. That's crazy. Just shred it. Well, if you cook it right and all the way, and it's able to kind of break apart, right?
100%. It just turns basically, you could just stick your hand, just like pulled pork,
really?
Just like that. Yeah.
It just looks like that when you're just pulling it apart. Like
100%.
Crazy. Yeah, I've seen pictures on your Instagram, Vinegar and Smoke Instagram. Even the pulled pork is like falling apart. It's beautiful pink. You guys got to go on his Instagram. You're gonna see him work so hard on that thing. It's incredible. But then we had it was cool because we were talking about earlier. You had it on you would just hand people piles of this stuff in these little cartons. Pour your traditional barbecue sauce over it, which is awesome. Then you got this blackberry habanero, which you were saying, people think it's spicy, but it's not. It's very nice. It's sweet. I thought that thing was going to win. I thought that was going to win the sauce, but you got Fat Perks in the background. He's got a great sauce. You've got all these other guys competing. A lot of competition, and then you didn't know who the judges were, right? So it was kind of mysterious, right?
Yeah, I mean, most regular barbecue competitions, you go in and they tell you, here are the rules. Here's, here you get the meat from us, so everyone has the same meat. You all enter all the same categories. You got to cook it the same way. This was, more of an opportunity to compete with each other, but also to sell some food and get, a little public presence. But it was a great time. But yeah, not knowing who the judges were made it so we were able to kind of cook what we wanted to cook and how we wanted to cook it to submit to them. So
that's what was cool about it. Everybody was able to shine in their own light, what their strengths were came out in the different flavorings and the different dishes that they did. And at the end of the day, you probably won for something that you really do well at. You do great pork ribs. Fat Perks does the chicken. The other guy did the tacos. Those are the things that they really shine on. Everybody's tasted amazing, but it shines. And then also, what was cool, it was such a good vibe. Because you want to probably be nice to everybody since you don't know who the judges is, right? Is that right, Kris?
Yeah.
Because Kris is the one that does the talk. I think Kris does the talking. The mom was there.
Yeah.
and you had the secret weapon, the duo, the barbecue team elite, the grill slingers were in your booth, and I met them, and they were freaking hilarious as always, and they pulled me right into your booth.
Yeah, man. The grill slinger guys, Eric and Richie, those guys are some buddies of mine outside of barbecue. We've all worked at kind of the same place, and that's where we know each other from. The Guitar Center crew runs deep. And
I heard there's like the Guitar Center clique.
Yeah, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like
it's not just one Guitar Center; it's like worldwide. It's almost like the Mongols or the what do they call them, the Hell's Angels.
Yeah,
you guys are very deep.
Exactly. Yeah, trust me. Go anywhere to a Guitar Center, anywhere in the country. Like I worked for a store blank. Like, so they're buddies of mine, and they are into barbecue. And when this comp was rolling around, I knew that I was going to need some help because I plan to enter all 6 categories. And normally at pop-ups, it's myself, Kris here, and my wife. My mom comes out and helps us, and it's pretty much it. It's just 3 of us, and we hit it, and we serve as much as we can. And this situation was, I was expecting to need the help, and I'm glad they were there because they are great hype men, and they are engaging, entertaining, and they know about barbecue, and they're on the same page as me. In fact, Eric came out at midnight the night before when we started to cook on the trailer, and hung out for about 5 hours until 5 in the morning, and then he, got some rest before the comp, and
That's what was tripping me out yesterday. They were talking about you guys do everything the night before. Is that so that it has time to rest, or why do you guys do that?
Well, I mean, in general, when you're cooking stuff for 10 to 14 hours, you don't have time to do it the day that you're doing it, and then you definitely want to let it rest. Like the eye of round that I brought here only cooked for about 2 hours, and then I rested it for 4 hours.
Wow.
It didn't have to rest that long. It could have rested for less, but you want to give it time to settle and be ready to cut, because if you cut it too soon, you lose all those juices, right? You take it off and you cut it too soon, and then it ends up being dry. And then if you wait too long and it's cold, that's not cool either, right? So,
yeah.
But the reason we do it overnight, yeah, exactly. But the overnight cook is really to give ourselves time to, if you're going to do something low and slow, then you got to have the time to do it low and slow.
That's right. You're talking about it maybe at most an 8-hour day event. You gotta, most of these meats, brisket, 15 hours. Pulled pork could be 8 to 10 hours possibly. You gotta have that time to be able to cook. My biggest challenge cooking at home is with the kids and the wife and the things we gotta do. Kris, you can speak to this. Sometimes he's probably in the back barbecuing and stuff, and Kris is like, hey, we got to go to grandma's to do this and that. You don't have no time. We don't got that 15 hours to do it. So when you're getting into catering and you're getting into the comp and having fun and stuff like that on the road, that makes sense. You do it the night before. It gives it enough time to do the slow and low, first of all, but then secondly, gives it time to rest, and that's the key, right?
Yeah, resting is really, getting your meat cooked and pulling it at the right time and the right temperature, and doing whatever you're going to do, wrapping it or not wrapping it, trays, whatever, but resting it and, really giving it the chance to rest, and really giving it a chance to, for those juices to kind of like, I don't want to say reabsorb, but to kind of like get in there, right?
Well, that's the word they use for it. They say like it reabsorbs itself, or it kind of
exactly. Because like for example, going back to the same example, we pulled open that tray and there's all kinds of juices in the bottom, which is great because if I want to make a gravy or something, I've got those reserved juices. Yeah. But had I cut it right away, all that would have just run right out, right? We would have never had access to any of that juice.
So it would have been just super dry, right?
That's usually what happens.
That's why, we had it earlier. I continue to snack on it. I'm probably going to sneak away as he talks and grab some more because it's incredible. I've never had that before. You were telling me it's similar to pork loin.
Yeah, so if you're familiar with what pork loin looks like, it's kind of a long, lean muscle, not a whole lot of fat. Very little marbling, a little bit of a fat cap on some of them. Not on the tenderloin, but on the loin itself, there's a little bit of a fat cap. And the eye of round is very similar to that in that, again, very little marbling, very similar shape, very similar texture. And, it's a great piece of meat because when you slice across like we sliced it for this, you are getting that perfect slice across the grain like you want to make it tender. You don't like a brisket. Part of the challenge of cooking a brisket and slicing a brisket is that the fibers don't go the same way, right? You have the flat that goes one way, and you have the top that goes a different direction.
You end up having to like cut it in half and try to turn it to make it.
Yeah, so you get that cross grain action. Whereas this eye round is all one piece that goes the same direction. So when you slice it, you get nice tender slices.
Oh,
you
wow.
know, and that's why, you know, it's great for sandwiches. We use eye round for tacos. We cube it, you know, and we marinate it and use it for tacos. So it's yeah,
it's very versatile.
It's got a very similar mouth texture to like a chuck steak.
Nice. Yeah, it's awesome because it's just like the pork loin. You get the nice circles. You can eat it like that on a plate. You can make sandwiches out of it. You brought an incredible chimichurri that was next level. It's got all the traditional ingredients, but I've never had a chimichurri with, not that I know of, with not a habanero. You put a serrano in there. Give it a little bit of spice. It was nice. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I like spicy food. I'm a big fan of things that have spice to them. Not overwhelming spice. Not like, oh my gosh, I can't taste the food that I'm eating.
Yeah.
Kick to it.
Yeah, there's a kick to it. Something that gives you a little, whew, yeah, you got a little sweat coming out of it. Where did that come from, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. It was tasty. It was like, it was heat, but it complemented the other flavors. Instead of like, and that's all you taste. It's like it complemented the vinegar. It complemented the other ingredients that you have in there. The parsley, I think, is what they use in there. What else do they use in there?
Yeah, so what I brought today is parsley, garlic, salt, pepper, red wine vinegar, the serranos, some crushed red pepper, and a little bit of olive oil, and mix that up, let it sit for a bit, and that's pretty much the majority of it. It's pretty simple.
That's crazy. And then
red onion.
And the red onion was incredible too. How do you do red onion? You use like red wine vinegar as well?
No, the red onion I actually just pickle with regular white vinegar and peppercorns.
Oh, okay. Just pickle them for.
Yep, a little bit of sugar, and then I do so most of the pickles that I do are a cold pickle, where I put them in cold and in 100% vinegar and let them rest for about 24 to 48 hours to pickle. And then there are hot, and that results in having a crisper pickle.
How does it work? I don't know anything about pickling. So it comes out of the refrigerator, you put it in the jar of vinegar, you let it sit out in the room, or you put it back in the fridge?
Oh, you put it back in the fridge. Well, it depends on what you're making. Okay, so the pickling hole can be very deep. So just on a very basic.
All night. Are you, Kris? I don't know.
We do. We're good.
Okay.
So on a very basic level, you can pickle pretty much any vegetable with white vinegar, and that's it. Just white vinegar. So if you want to pickle something, you go to the store and you buy some white vinegar. You get a mason jar. You stick it all in there, and you wait, and you put it in the fridge. Now, at a very basic level, anything.
Like cucumbers, like that is your basic pickle?
Yeah, pretty much. So, cucumbers, we use Persian cucumbers. That's the style of cucumber we use because they are snappy and they result in a very crisp pickle. But we do them cold. So going back to these red onions here that we've got, these are a hot pickle. And the difference is a hot pickle pickles immediately, right? So a hot pickle, you do a hot brine where you boil the vinegar and your ingredients and you dump it over your vegetables and then you put it in an airtight container. And you hot pickle it, and for that you leave it on the counter until it reaches room temperature, and then you put it in the fridge. Whereas a cold pickle, you use a cold brine, and you combine the ingredients, you put them directly back in the fridge, and they take about 2 days to pickle. So the hot pickle results in an instant pickle, but it's softer, right? You lose some of that crunch and some of that snap.
More for like sandwiches,
Correct.
Toppings, maybe sort of thing.
And that's why I use them for these red onions, because that way it softens them up. It gives them a nice, feel over the mouth, and then gets them ready really fast. I can make them same day, so that way they're very fresh as well.
It was awesome. That's super interesting. Like, if I ask you anything else like that, just go, because that was good. That was a great explanation. That's because nobody knows about that. Like hot pickling, cold pickling. Like, I thought there was just like you throw vinegar in a jar and just leave it. And I didn't even know if you put it in the fridge, out of the fridge. Who knows about that stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I honestly, like, people ask about the name all the time, Vinegar and Smoke, and the vinegar part is I started out doing just gourmet pickles. I actually made you a batch that I forgot. So
you have to come back to the show and
do
another show.
Yep, volume 2. But we started out doing pickles, and it just kind of blew up. I had an extra fridge full of pickles to fill orders for people, and it just kind of like got out of got out of hand that way. I mean, in a good way, of course, but
Yeah, everywhere you go, people are, when he shows up at pop-ups, everyone's like, oh man, like, forgot your pickles. I came here for your pickles.
Yeah, no, the pickles.
because I stopped bringing jars to events because I started bringing more smoked meats and stuff. So I used to bring jars of pickles to sell to events.
Yeah.
And they went great. But glass jars are hard to transport, and it's do I bring a cooler full of glass jars or do I bring an extra cooler full of French fries? You know what I mean? Like,
that's a tough choice right there.
and so
French fries or pickles? Oh my god.
Yeah. Well, we do fried pickles too, which is a very fun one.
Holy moly.
We do a jalapeno dill pickle that we do a light flour cornstarch dredge and then hit in the fryer.
Oh my god.
And then serve that with a little bit of our ranch crema.
Oh, you are coming back. You are coming back. Bring that stuff. How did you learn? Did it start with pickling? How did you learn all this stuff? Did it start with learning to pickle? Did it start with cooking?
That's like, how far back do I go? When I was 5 years old.
That's what Rich did yesterday. So.
Here's the deal. My dad. Okay. It's even funnier than that. So my dad spent smoking meat for like 30 years, and I learned to barbecue from him. But he learned to barbecue from my mom, because when they met, my dad didn't cook for anything. My dad cooked instant mac and cheese and like bags of chips. My mom cooked, and so she taught him the basics of barbecuing, and he really enjoyed it and just kind of took off from there. And then years later, I was born and I joined them in the kitchen and watched. But that's for me, cooking has always been something that I've been interested in, right? And
where are you guys from originally?
Oh, I mean, I actually was born in Whittier.
Oh, you were born in Whittier?
Yeah, I was born in Whittier, grew up in La Habra until I was 8, and then we moved. We lived right behind La Habra High School. So we, yeah.
Oh, that's crazy. And I think it was, Rich was saying that he went to Whittier Christian down the street over here.
Yeah, small world, man.
It's crazy.
But yeah, and then we moved out to Santa Ana, so not too far, but just far enough, so.
That's crazy. So, but your mom knew how to smoke.
Well, she knew how to grill. And she taught my dad how to grill, and then he kind of like took off from there and learned.
Got into smoking.
Yeah, more about it.
Oh, okay. So she was into like barbecuing, backyard, top of the grill type stuff, open fire, and then he starts learning a bit of barbecue, and he wants to take it to the next level, like most of us do, and then starts to smoke, learn how to smoke.
That's
barrel smoking.
Yeah, in fact, he had a barrel. Oh my gosh, like our backyard is just a collection of barbecues between him and myself. There's more barbecues than we could possibly use. It's kind of it's a sick addiction, but
obsession.
I have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, Eric was saying he has like 8 of them himself, like in the backyard.
Oh yeah.
So this is a common thing.
And they all serve a purpose, right? They all got us. That's what I tell myself. So yeah, going back to the barrel though, I would say like the definitive Southern California style, because there's barbecue styles from all over the country, right? There's Texas style, there's Memphis style, there's Carolina style.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say the only West Coast California style is the Santa Maria grill, and I disagree. I think the barrel smoker is more like classic California barbecue if you're talking smoking, because I mean Santa Maria grill, you're grilling, you're not really smoking unless you're enclosing your meat.
Right, which you don't in Santa Maria. And it's mostly that's a Northern California thing. Like down here in Southern California,
you see those barrels.
I've always seen barrels, like, as far as I remember. Like and then I start getting into it, and then all of a sudden you see like Traegers at Home Depot and people barbecuing on Netflix, and all of a sudden everybody's into barbecue. Like, what the heck happened? Like, nobody was into it for a while.
Two things. Not to hate on Traegers, because they are extremely consistent, but the joke I like to make about Traegers is they are an oven that produces a smoke flavor.
You just put it, like we were talking about yesterday, you just put it in, press a button. The only one that couldn't get it right was Rich. I think his caught on fire.
Yeah. I've seen the pictures. It was.
He has a video of it.
Not pretty, yeah. But again, pellet smokers are extremely consistent. When you dial it in, when you're good with it, like you can make some great dishes, right? So not to poo-poo on them like they're terrible, they're just not my deal, right? They're just not
no, it's just different. It's just it's more of a push and play, right?
Yeah, it's a lot easier to, like, for example, when I was cooking the Iowa today, I had to kind of work the fire because I was working a regular lever, and I had it outside with wind and stuff, so it's like, okay, close the vents, add wood, open the vents, add charcoal, etc. Whereas the Traeger kind of setup, you put the pellets in the hopper, Yeah, tell
and
it what
watch your app.
Yes, that's right, exactly.
That's it.
So, but that frees you up to work on other stuff, right? So if you're
Yeah.
gonna make other stuff, I kind of had to wait till I was done with the meat to make the chimichurri and to,
Oh,
because I was working the fire. So it kind of, and my outdoor kitchen is not completely set up because I let those guys pull my trailer out to do a party, and so my outdoor kitchen is kind of a mess right now. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, that's what they say. It's like the trigger. They say, well, we can open up more because we can do more things because we don't have to worry about the fire.
Yep.
Whereas what we were talking about yesterday with the stick burning, I like the stick burning. It's kind of like an art form. You have to set up. You've got to set up the meat correctly. You've got to cut your meat thinking about the fire. You're always thinking about what's going to happen when I put this baby around fire, around a smoke environment. How do I want it cut before I even put it in? What kind of flavor profiles do I want to put on top to get it in there? And then I gotta build my fire, and I gotta watch that from its infancy slowly. I like that whole process, that whole prehistoric kind of process where it's like back in the old days where you build the fire, you wait for it to go, you're building it, you don't throw the stuff in right away. You're waiting for it to get that proper ambient temperature inside the smoker, and it's a process. And once you get the meat in, it continues. You can't just take off. You can take a couple breaks in it, but you got to watch it. Like number one, for safety reasons, but number two, if it goes too low, then you're ruining your whole dish, right?
Oh man, I can't tell you. Well, I can tell you. Let me tell you. So, going back to cooking with my parents, right? And my folks are very proud people. They love to talk about the parties we had as a kid, right? Like when I was younger, we had giant parties at our house.
Well, you're Mexican, right? So all of us Mexicans have huge parties.
Yeah.
We have parties for weddings. We have parties for quinceañeras. We have bautismos. When you get divorced, divorciados. We have special tacos for that. It's a whole thing.
That's right. So we used to have
1-year-old's birthday party.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
1-year-old, everybody's drunk, and
some of the biggest parties
who knows
we've
what-
ever been for 1-year-olds.
Yes.
All right, so we had a pit in our backyard for a long time that we did whole goats, whole pigs, the whole deal. It was 6 feet deep, 6 feet wide.
That's legit.
And
That's
it was
Mexico style.
lined with bricks, the whole thing. And we successfully cooked a bunch of stuff in there. And then my sister wanted to have a big party. And so we're like, hell yeah, let's do it, right? Like, we're going to do it. But we couldn't find a whole half a pig. Excuse me, we couldn't find a whole half pig or a whole goat anywhere. Like, it just was, we were having a hard time. We didn't want to drive out to, like, one of the farms in LA. Like,
Yeah, like, there's only so many places in
Yeah.
LA that have that. You have to kind of drive a little bit.
Yep, and it was kind of like a little bit of a last minute thing, as my sister normally does. And so we decided, just screw it, let's get a bunch of like pork shoulders and like just kind of bigger pieces of meat, no problem. Well, we loaded the firebox too full of crap, and we didn't get it hot enough before we closed it off. And long story short, the box went out after about 10 hours, and so the stuff never got over like 135.
So the box was so full, there just was no air.
That's right, yeah.
And
It just it was the biggest disappointment. Imagine opening a pit and just having like what's essentially now a bunch of like 100 pounds of rotten meat. You know what I mean? Because the fire had gone out. So I mean, not every cook is perfect,
100%. I was telling Rich and Eric yesterday that because Rich was telling us his story about his Traeger catching on fire. I was like, man, when I first got my pit burr, what do I have, a side smoker with a barrel?
Oh yeah.
What do you call that?
A reverse flow? Is that what you have? Or?
It's not a reverse flow, but it's got a side burner, and it's a stick burner basically.
Sure.
With the barrel, and I mean, I didn't know what type of wood to put in the beginning, so I was putting like palm trees. I was putting any kind of wood in the back.
Yeah, why not?
And it smoked, but it was nasty. It was not the right tip, so not the right. Until I figured out, okay, there's actually wood that you buy. You got to go to Sharp Gourmet, get the stuff. You got to go to the woodshed in Orange County. You got to go to a special place to buy the pecan or the apple. Then I figured out, there's different woods, and it's a whole art form, like I said, and it really makes a difference incrementally to the flavor of the meat, right?
I agree to a degree, yes and no. Like I am camp split, because I use logs and wood, but I also use lump charcoal as my base. So a lot of folks will say, no, you've got to burn logs and make them into charcoals and then put those
12 hours.
Yeah, and like I did that for a while. When I got the trailer, when I first got my rig, I burned a shitload of wood.
It's expensive.
And it didn't make any difference in the quality of my cook, right? So I was burning all this wood and I was making it into charcoals and I was dishing that into the firebox and, you know, the whole traditional way you do that whole same thing. And, you know, it didn't make any sense to me. So I went to cook one day and I didn't have enough wood to cook what I was going to cook. So my solution was, well, I can go get a couple 40-pound bags of lump charcoal, mesquite lump, and just try it out. And I honestly have never looked back, man. Like,
so do you start out with lump and then you start putting little chunks of wood in there?
Well, I start 2 chimneys full of lump and I get them going hot, nice and hot. Then I put them in the bottom of my box and get the temperature of the box to where I want it. Right. And then I start adding real wood, right? Because why preheat your box with your best products?
Your super expensive wood from my favorite place, the woodshed.
Exactly.
But yeah, and I don't know if do you think that I've seen a lot of guys like they definitely start with lump. They definitely even regular briquettes because it seems like you can start a nice hot fire base. Exactly. And once you start putting the wood on there, you've got this hot base. Mm-hmm. You got the wood chunks or logs on top, starting to smolder, starting to go down. Now it seems like you've got this longer fire. To me, it seems like it goes longer that way.
Yep.
I don't know if I'm crazy.
No, 100%. That's actually why I do it that way. You get the lump, because the lump charcoal burns longer than briquettes anyways, right? It's got a nice long burn to it because it's usually hardwood, right? Mm. So you get that going, and you get your fire nice and hot, you get your box ready to go, and then you toss your flavor wood on, right? Your white oak or your pecan or your apple or your hickory, whatever the flavor profile wood that you want on. Yeah. Because if you're burning that wood down to charcoal, it just doesn't.
There's no. Yeah, it seems like you're wasting it in the beginning. If you're just starting your fire, and you're throwing all this expensive pecan, apple, that beautiful smoke is just going right up the chimney.
Oh yeah.
Along with the flavor.
Exactly.
So
100%.
That's what it seems like to me. That's a little talk on fireboxing, but that's how intense it could be. I know for me watching you guys, watching the good the good guys on YouTube and stuff like that. It's those little details, the way you guys put the rub on, the way you guys cut the meat, the way you guys set your fire. For me, watching different, even open flame guys, like the detail that they take just in the fire alone seems to create a much better product than just just throwing it all together, doing it halfway, or not worrying. There's this art to the fire is what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like I would say that, like, I don't know the percentage, but let's say 70% of people who barbecue in their backyard and it's not on a propane grill where it's a charcoal grill, they probably complain that they burn stuff or it doesn't cook evenly or whatever, and it's probably because they just dump their charcoal in the bottom on the grill and they don't make an even layer of charcoal, or they don't pay attention to whether or not it's an even heat, right? Like, oh, my charcoal's down there, so I'm barbecuing that, right?
Yeah, I think like God, my dad, God rest his soul, but when he would barbecue, like, he'd have a little Weber and the whole thing was full of barbecue, and I'd always be like, because he was a great, amazing cook. He could make everybody loved his cooking. He was an amazing cook. But then when I started learning about like offsetting stuff and stuff like that, I'd be like, hey Dad, don't you want to have like one section where you don't? Nah, we're camping. Just throw the steak on there, and keep it going until it gets black, and then it would be good. But it wasn't that, like, when you can offset it, you put the steak on and hit and let it come off at like 125 and then let it rest up to the temp. That kind of medium rare that you can get with that way. That's a different thing than just throwing that steak on there like the backyard guys do, which is good and fun. And you know that's eating. No matter one thing, having the wife that I do, God, that's why I love my wife, is she's able to give me the perspective on things. Like, she could be like, I hate everything. That's why that's the number one thing she said. That she not I hate everything, but I'm not a fan. I don't no.
I'm not a fan.
I'm not a fan. That's very just. So that's why I was tripping out when she's my, like, She's like my right hand. She's my partner. She's my love. She's everything. I have to bring her with me everywhere I go because I'm such a I like the food. I'm like, well, I'm eating. Like I'm getting fed. To me, that's like the baseline. Like, well, like that's how I rate. Like, well, 1 to 5 is 1 to 5 rating. Well, I'm eating. I'm not dying. I'm not throwing up. 1 to 5, that's pretty good. But 6 to 10 is like, oh, that's another level. 10 is like Vinegar and Smoke. But then I have to taste it. But then I have to bring my wife and I give her some of your brisket, and she's like, wow. And then she likes it, and she's like, we're going around the freaking festival, and we keep going back, and we keep ending up at your booth, and we keep going back, and we end up trying your beans, these golden, beautiful beans that are incredible. They're gold, like you just want to put them in a vault because they're incredible. And then my wife's liking them. Like, damn, this is. I know it's good because I can taste it, but if she likes it, like that's like winning a Michelin star. Because she doesn't like anything. Like if Gordon Ramsay was here, she'd probably tell him to go home. She doesn't like anything. She likes your food.
Well, that's a fantastic, a huge compliment to me. Like, you can ask Kris right here. One thing that I cook a lot. I get a lot of business. We are very busy, and I still every time I say, "Is this good? Are you sure it's good? Like, you're not just telling me it's good, right? Like, you sure it's good?
Oh yeah.
Are you sure you like it? Really?
Are you talking to me for real? Like, no, yeah.
Try it again. Just take another bite. Make sure. All right, take from the side. Okay.
I know. I have to reassure him a lot. Like he's always like, "Are you sure it's good? Are you sure it's good?" I mean, there's times that I'll tell him like, "Oh, but it's missing, something," and then he'll admit to me, "Oh, it's because I didn't add this to it because I didn't have it." But just when he's messing around, not when it's for like catering events or anything.
Well, there's so many elements to it. Like you can't remember. You can if you keep doing it every day, but if you're not doing it every day, it's like there's so many elements to it. You've got to remember how to cut it correctly. You certain amount of fat off. You've got to remember the timing. You got to remember to probe it at a certain time. You got to remember the fire that we talked about. You've got to use so much time, and then you've got to rest it. And that's so you guys were like doing stuff overnight, so that you had the time to do like 15-hour cooks, enough resting time, and have it ready for the festival. And it was perfect. Like you were telling me before, you need that kind of time.
Yeah, and honestly, in general, like, I will say for sure that one thing people get caught up on with smoking meat in general is this idea of like, oh, I'm doing a brisket. It has to be in at least 10 hours or at least 12 hours, because I'll tell you, like, I've had some briskets that cooked in 6 or 7, and I was like, shit, okay, that's good, cool. But one thing that, going back to you mentioned, trimming off fat or doing this or that, right? If I know I only have 8 hours and I, for some reason, really need to cook a brisket, I will trim that bad boy really aggressively, and I will get most of the fat off the top.
And get that heat on there.
100%, because like part of why you cook brisket for so long is to render the fat. If I remove the fat and wrap it sooner with butter to add that moisture back, why do I need to keep rendering fat that's not there?
Damn. So you're doing a hot and fast.
So I do hot and fast if I need to. So I mean, you can get them done in 8 hours. You put them on for 6, you wrap them with 2 left, you put them back on.
You just trim them more.
You just trim them more.
Jesus, that's a great option. If you're a caterer out there, that's the steps of the tricks you want to hear, because if you're running behind and you just couldn't get to it, we talked about how, we're always in the backyard. We just don't have that time. Chrissy's like, hey, it's time to go to church, or it's time to go to the grandma's or whatever. And like, we're in the backyard still 12 hours later, and the freaking dinosaur ribs aren't done. We're gonna get in trouble, right? So we gotta get moving. Yeah,
it's exactly. You gotta have a backup plan, man.
Yep, you gotta have a backup plan.
And he has this bad habit of booking like back-to-back events.
So
he's trying to get it all done before.
So do you do the scheduling as well as the cooking?
We have a big calendar on the entranceway to our house. We got one of those big desk calendars.
Oh, nice.
And it's got her schedule and my schedule and my mom's schedule and just all the events that and so like, for example, today I got a text message from somebody asking if we're available for a catering date. So my first thing is, okay, well, let me go look at the wall calendar and see if there's anything on that date, right? Like, do I have something booked? Does she have something booked? Do we? Because we go camping a good amount. We're really active, and so sometimes there's something already on the calendar, and I don't want to quote somebody for a day that I'm not going to be able to do. So first thing is go check that out. But I would say like she is the keeper of the schedule. Like before I finalize any bookings, I do, even if it's not on the calendar, I'll be like, is there anything on this day that I need to know about?
Always, let me check with my wife.
Let me check with my wife.
Let me check with my wife.
Make sure. Nothing on the calendar yet, but hold on. I haven't talked to her in a few hours.
Yeah, it could have easily changed rapidly.
Exactly.
Me and my wife are sending calendar like back and forth. She's sending me the Google one. I'm sending her my work calendar, and it's like back and forth, and like, who am I going to interview this day? What I'm going to interview on this day? What time? What pop-ups we're going to? We're going to show up at this, boom, 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 and just we constantly have to coordinate because we got kids too. We're like dropping off kids and here and there in school and everything like that. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, the week of the pop-up for the barbecue competition, Thursday we did a fundraiser for a school where we provided them with 250 churros, 35 pounds of potato salad, and 6 gallons of pasta salad that we served for
The same day?
on a Thursday.
On the Thursday, the week.
Yeah, the Friday, the next day, we went out to Temecula and did a taco party for 150 people for the Pechanga Tribal Council.
150 people?
Yeah. And then a day later, then on Saturday, I cleaned and got ready to cook. And then on Sunday, we went out to the barbecue competition.
Dang. So that night, Saturday, you were cooking?
That night, Saturday was cleaning, getting ready to cook. Yeah, at midnight Saturday night, we got up and got at 11 o'clock at the fire started, so that by midnight we could toss the meat on.
Dang. That is, talking about a schedule. You guys are non-stop.
Yep.
So when did you start, did we talk about, so how did you start off? Did we talk about the pickles already?
Yeah, we kind of briefly touched on the pickles. I did start doing pickles. Like that is this whole thing. The whole idea of me doing food as like a day job started with making pickles at home, and then I made like too many. I started taking them like to work and stuff. People were like, "Oh shit, this is good. Like, can I get some of these?"
Damn.
And that just kind of took off into like buying an extra fridge for pickles that and having to have a separate whole fridge just for that. And then somebody said, well, we know you cook. Can we get some, like, do you want to do a party for us? And I think the first party we actually did was for...
My friend.
Yeah.
One of my close friends. Her daughter's 15th
birthday. Nice.
Quinceañera. Yeah, so she needed a taco guy. Well, kind of backtracking, we lived in Texas for a year.
Oh, you did?
And
Yep.
the way you see taco stands out here, you see barbecue...
In
there,
Texas.
like in every corner. Yeah, you just see
What part of Texas was this?
Austin.
Austin. Oh, okay, cool.
So that's where he kind of was like, that's what I want to do. He's like, I want to do that. Like I barbecue good. Like he has always had this love for food since I met him. And he always cooked me meals and stuff. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I've been missing out my whole life. What is this?
Oh,
and so that's where the idea kind of sparked that's what he wanted to do. And he told me, I've always wanted to do my own food thing, like my own food truck or catering, and that's kind of where we started talking about it. And I was like,
when you guys were in Austin?
Yeah, you should do it. Like that's what you want. You should go for it. So
because it's different, right? You grew up here in Whittier.
Yeah. I was born in Whittier at Whittier Hospital, and grew up in La Habra until I was 8. Then we moved out to Santa Ana, and I love Whittier. I was telling her on the drive out here that, like, if we could, find a spot out here, I just love the town. I like it because it's out of the way.
It's totally, you can't, the freeway, to get to the freeway is 3 to 4 miles at least, just to get to the freeway.
It's like that jewelry store,
so
inconveniently located.
It's like everything, like Whittier is the center of it's like everything is on the outskirts, the freeways are on the outskirts. Yep. You have to get to the center of town to where people live. It's weird. And all the buildings are closer to all the companies are closer to the freeways. It's like this protection of where.
Yeah, I dig it.
I
think it's cool.
It's dope. I've been here since I was 10 years old. It's freaking awesome. So when did you guys move out to Texas?
So I worked going back to the Guitar Center thing and the Girl Singers guys, and that's how I know them. I was a store manager for Guitar Center. I was a manager for Guitar Center, and then I moved to Austin because I had the opportunity to run a store there. So I was the store manager for this store. Technically, the city is Round Rock. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Round Rock, but it's like this. It's like this. You're from here, right? So if you talk to somebody from, say, Chicago, you say, "Oh, I live in Ventura." They're like, "I don't know what the hell Ventura
No,
is."
you just say you live in LA.
That's right.
You
Exactly.
never say you live in Whittier.
That's right.
You never say what city.
Yep.
Pasadena. No, you just say I'm from LA.
Right, so-
oh, you in LA? Oh, yeah.
So imagine Round Rock is even closer to Austin than like you. It's like literally like you can throw a stone from anywhere in Round Rock and hit Austin. You know what I mean? Like
So you just always say Austin.
just say Austin.
Just say
because,
Austin.
in fact, my store, there was a North Austin store that you had to then pass through Round Rock to get to the South Austin store. You know what I mean? It was like a weird setup.
crazy.
So I was out there, right, running a Guitar Center, and then my daughter Scarlett was born out there, and it was great. And we, at the time, we loved Texas.
So this was 4 years ago.
Yep.
She's 4. Yeah,
Yep.
4 years ago.
And so the powers that be at my company, I'd only been there for about a year, and I had signed on for a 5-year hitch to move out there. They paid for me to move. They did the whole
Nice.
thing. And I told my bosses, I would prefer to be back out here. And I had been killing it. I went out to that store, and I was just having a great year, with the metrics and all that stuff. And
Selling guitars, you're like,
Oh,
you're
dude,
selling sticks
don't
by,
even-
by the bundles. People
yeah.
were loading their trucks full of drums because of your sell skills.
Dude, Austin was one of those cities, man. So I told him I would rather come out here. He's like, well, would you be interested in grand opening a new store in
Wow.
Monterey Park? And I said, duh, sure.
Yeah, Monterey Park's too close to them. That's right here by Whittier.
Right, why not? Like, let's do it. So they moved me back out here, and I was
Nice.
moved back out here. And,
So at least they got you back. Like sometimes they send you out and they're like, and if you want to come back, you're like, you're on your own.
oh, yeah.
They got you back too.
Yeah, they got me back.
That was when Guitar Center was booming before COVID.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
yes. Oh, yeah. So I was back, and I opened that store in Monterey Park, and it was cool. Like, it was a great experience, and I loved the opportunity of working Guitar Center, and I did some cool stuff. I was a manager at the store in Hollywood for a while. I worked as a manager at the store
Oh, the
here in
Hollywood
Orange.
was cool. It has all the different.
Yep.
gyms
I was
and stuff
actually
and all that.
one of the managers there while they were doing the renovation before they re-grand opened it.
Oh, wow.
$6 million on the reno of that store.
$6 million.
$6 million on the
Oh my
renovation.
god.
So, going back to Monterey Park though, and from where we live, I had to be there at 8 in the morning. So I was leaving at like 6:30.
Where did you guys end up staying?
We're in Santa Ana.
Santa
so we're
Ana,
staying.
okay.
So to get to Monterey Park, with traffic and stuff, and at that time my daughter was very small, and so I was leaving. Yeah.
6:30. That's not bad actually for LA. You're doing pretty good time to get there in LA to get there at 8.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she was asleep though, and I would be getting back at 7 at night, 7:30 at night, and she was asleep, right? Because she was an infant, and I felt like I was just missing out, and like it just became less and less fun progressively for me, right? Like it went from being a really whirlwind. I only worked there for 5 years. I went from being a sales associate to a manager in 3 months.
Damn.
I just sold the hell out of
You're
everything.
good at selling.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's amazing.
So, it was a whirlwind experience for me, but as soon as it stopped being worth the drive and the effort, you know what I mean? Then it's like, well, what am I doing this for? So at that time,
What year is this about?
this is,
She was born in 2018. We were in Austin in 2017.
Okay.
We moved back after she was born in 2018.
yeah, so this is probably late 18, early 19. So right before the pandemic hits, about 6 months before the pandemic hits, I decide to resign from being a store manager and go back to just doing sales. And
Just put me on the floor. Put me on the floor.
just give me something to sell. I will sell the shit out of all this gear, and I will just do it. So I went back.
Would
to
that
this.
give you more, like you would just, instead you would come in at 9 like everybody else instead of 8? Or
I would have the opportunity to work a different schedule that didn't even require me to say be there that early. If I was going to close, I can go in at 2 or 3 or whatever and be there till 8 or 9. And that's
Oh,
fine.
wow.
But then
And then
I-
it was down the street from where we lived, so
Yeah.
he didn't have to leave at 6:30.
Oh, a
They
different
changed-
store
they changed
too.
the
So
store.
it's
Right.
perfect because we'd be with Scarlett in the morning.
Yep.
It's down the street. Go there at 2, close up, and come back home. That's awesome.
Yeah, they actually were really cool. When I told them that I was burnt out and didn't want to be a manager anymore, and I said, they said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'll sell for you. I'll sell. And they said, what store do you want to go to?
Wow.
And I told them the store that was closest to my house, and they made it happen. And so I was there, and it was big chilling. It was cool. It was all going to plan. And then the pandemic hit, and at that time I was already making pickles, and I was already kind of getting it going and thinking like, man, maybe I could do this. You know what I mean? Maybe this is the thing instead.
Yeah.
And then when they cut everyone and said, okay, now everything's closed and there is no going to work right now.
Yeah, because the stores were completely shut down.
Yep. And at that time, it was just, I think everyone went through about 6 weeks of being excited about cooking for themselves and learning how to cook, right? I know some people who are like,
everybody was trying to do like I was like, cool, I can't go to a restaurant.
Exactly.
Me and my son were like learning how to cook on a like I got bricks and made like this brick outdoor barbecue myself with like a grill on top.
Awesome.
My wife hated it because it was on the grass.
Sure.
And then she bought me the brio, so I had a legit brio out there. But yeah, that's how it happened. Everybody was cooking at home.
Okay, so then after like not that long, some of the people who were getting pickles, because I was still making pickles for people and dropping them off and whatever, were like, hey, can you make us some food? And
how did they know? Did you bring some like dishes to lunch or something?
I used to, because I don't know how to cook for a small group. Like I don't know how to make 2 servings of something. You know what I mean?
Just like a big old batch.
I just make it, right? And so we'd have a fridge full of leftovers, and they'd be like, okay, well, if we don't eat this, it's gonna go bad, and we, our neighbors can only take so much leftovers.
Yeah, well, it's like that's how the Mexicans cook, because we have big families.
Yes.
We don't know how. We have to like re-engineer like how we cooked. And when we start getting into cooking, like I can only I have to make a plate, and I got to plate it, and like we make big old like trays full of food to come to the party, and we all just eat together.
That's right.
In one thing.
But I cook like that at home because I'm dumb. So, and we cut it down.
I'm like, it's just me and you. What are you cooking for like 10 people?
So I had leftovers, right? So I'd be taking leftovers. So people knew, and also like I'm always talking about food. Like they knew that I liked food. So, just kind of went from there. And I did a graduation party for
my sister, my nephew and niece.
Right. As kind of like before I'd even decided like I'm going to do catering, it was just kind of like, hey, you guys are having a party.
Just let me hook you up.
I'll make some food.
Have some fun and have this party and cheaper and all fun.
It went well. I was basically hooked at that time. I decided, well, I guess this is what I'm doing now. And, never really went back from there. So
once you just enjoyed it. What part? Obviously, I mean, you tell me, was it the cooking? Was it the people liking the food? What part did you really, what was that hit that was like, oh, dude, I love this?
Well, I'll tell you what, I 100% can tell you it. Without a doubt, I know what it is. I enjoy feeding people. I think that everyone deserves food, right? I don't think that there's any situation where somebody, even an animal, should be denied food, right? If it can be avoided, if there's an option for it. And I would give it away for free if I could.
Right.
I would, people talk about what's your dream job, and I don't think of it that way. I think of like, what is your dream community role, right? I would cook and clean. I would, take care of dietary needs, whatever, because that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy feeding people, and like I said earlier, everyone enjoys food for the most part. Like I don't really know anyone who's like, I'm not into food.
We all like to eat.
Y'all hear people say I'm not into music, but I don't know anyone who's like, I don't like food.
I don't like to eat.
So
it's like saying I don't like to breathe or something.
Yeah, and so for me, like the joy of cooking is an extension of the joy of feeding people. Like I sign off a lot of my messages online, hope to feed you soon, because I legitimately do hope to feed you soon. I didn't say I hope to sell you food soon, right?
Right.
I said I hope to feed you soon. And like this past Thanksgiving, we do meal kits and stuff, and I decided that I wanted to give away a meal to a family who needed it, And so we did a raffle where we invited people to nominate a family who they thought could use the relief for the holiday, whether it was monetary or just emotional. Maybe they couldn't get to cooking because maybe someone passed away or something.
So you had people nominate who they thought could really deserve this package?
That's right. We gave away a whole turkey and the whole sides, basically a meal for 10. And it went to a family who had someone pass away recently. And so it was like a nice way to, they were able to enjoy their time and grieve without having to worry about who the hell's going to make Thanksgiving dinner. You know.
That's awesome. Yeah, when somebody passes, it's very difficult. Like I can tell you, there's so many things to worry about besides the burial and dealing with all the different financial things that happen. There's a missing person, not just a missing person, but a missing part of the family that's everybody's kind of contributing to. You don't realize until you lose somebody, like how much that person contributed to not only your life, like spiritually, but physically, but also we all put in, right? We all put into that money pocket that gets us a roof over our head or gets us the food. So to not have to worry about that's incredible that you guys did that. That's dope.
And it felt great. And honestly, like we have been looking for additional opportunities to do stuff like that. It's actually not as easy as you might think to donate food, because most places only take canned or non-prepared food.
Sure, because people get sick.
Of course.
There's crazy wackos out there that might probably try to poison you or something like that.
So,
that's where my head always goes.
But I actually, just yesterday, I was preparing, with how much equipment I use for every event, like it's a non-stop cycle of cleaning, right? You do an event, you're cleaning. So I had some of the grill carts out front of the house, and I was cleaning up and cleaning tables and restocking bins and stuff for the next events that are coming up. And an Amazon driver who, is no stranger at our house stopped by to drop something off. And the gentleman said, "Hey man, what do you got going on here? Like, do you cook, or do you have a restaurant, or what is all this stuff?" And I was like, "Oh, I do catering, I do barbecue." And we got to talking. He actually, that was just his side gig. He runs a ministry. They're starting a new ministry in Cerritos.
Oh wow!
And they are going to be looking to kind of do like almost like a shelter where it's for folks who are unhoused and who may need food or a single night worth of shelter. Like, it's not going to be an extended stay place. So we talked for about 15 minutes, and he got my card and said, "Well, we're looking to do meals and stuff." And I like doing community service stuff. Like,
nice.
I will donate my time if you buy the food. I will come cook it, right? So that's how I got connected with some of those schools for that. For I was telling you before, is as I had done a taco party for one of the parents, and they reached out and said, "Do you do stuff like that?" And I said, "Just tell me when and where, and if I'm not booked, I will come and do that." Because not enough people, I think, who own independent businesses, that I know at least, have an opportunity to give back to the local community in that same way. Because, like, say you own like a local store that doesn't do food or some tangible thing, like, how do you give back to your community except for monetarily, right? Like, you just donate, I guess, right?
Yeah.
But going back to what I was saying about feeding people and being my joy, like, not only do I get to give back to the community through like the service of making food, but also the joy of food, right? Like,
there's a certain atmosphere that comes with it. Like when we were at the booth and we were with the pop-ups, there's this. I like them. My wife's the one that got me into, like, well, first of all, we got to support small business because COVID's happening. And at that time, that was all that was open. There was no restaurants. There was no jewelry store. You had to go to the pop-ups to get your stuff. And it was kind of like the coming thing that you talking about. It's necessary. You wouldn't talk about it much back before COVID. I think we talk about it now more because at that time, it was necessary. Each person played a specific role in the community. And we don't think about that much anymore. Now, if you're in economics, that's the number one thing you think about, because you, as a whole, as a community, as a city, as a state, each person, they're not just like you're living here, but you're providing a kind of each person has a certain like job that they provide. If you're a fireman, if you're a chef, if you're a cook, if you're a teacher, you're providing a service to people, and that's the pieces, the puzzle pieces, the structure of a society. All the different little pieces of puzzles that we each make have to be in place, have to be there in order to create life the way it should be. When life stops the way it kind of did in COVID time, it's when you start to look at how important those roles are.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, So the very first like pop-up kind of thing that we did was in Huntington Beach, and we did it several weeks in a row, and it was crazy, and it was people who were out looking for a change of scenery. For, you know what I mean? It was like the first opportunity where it was like life can be a little bit normal again.
People that were able to go. I remember that like people can kind of start going to places, and a little bit more, and a little bit more.
Yep, exactly. And everyone, like you're saying, everyone was 100% about, hey, let's support the small business, right? Let's go get food from these guys who are doing this to like make it happen during this time when their livelihood wasn't gonna work out.
Yeah, you talked to a lot of them at the pop-up. Most of them got fired from their job, and now they're making bracelets. Now they're making sugar candies. Now they're making awas. They didn't have a choice. Their backs were up against the wall. They got fired. Their company's closed. Now they had to create this income. And so I know that's why we do it. We go to the pop-ups because we want to support small business. My wife is big time on it. I enjoyed that aspect of it. Of course, I enjoy the other aspect is talking to people. I like talking to people. That's why I do what I do. It's just fun. And then the third aspect is I like to eat. So so none of it bothers me. I love doing the pop-ups. I love meeting different people. Where do you think? So now you do that. That's your this is your livelihood. You do catering. That's your job.
Yeah, this is my full time. Like I spend 24 hours a day thinking about food.
That's awesome. I couldn't imagine a better thing to think about. I think I have a day job, but I think about food while I'm doing that job too. So it's crazy.
I am super lucky to be able to do this as a job and to be able to say that this is like my day job. My wife is extremely supportive, and like, if it wasn't for her being supportive and like saying, yeah, this is gonna suck maybe financially for a little while until we figure it out, but it's starting to pick up steam, and if it wasn't for the encouragement and support and really the encouragement part of it, saying doing this is a valid choice, is a valid option, you know what I mean?
100%. Because the other side is why. Like most of the time you don't have the support. Most of the time, if you'd have an understanding wife like Kris, you'd be like, why are you doing that? Like, we need to make some money. Like, where the bills are going to be paying. Or your friends would be like, what? You're doing that? Like, why don't you get a job at Thrifty? Why don't you get a job at Target? Why don't you get a job like a regular job? You're getting the support that you need to do what you love to do. That's awesome.
Yes. And there's been times when he was like, because I pretty much handle finances,
yeah,
the scheduling. And there's been times that he's been like, I need to go back and pick up another 9-to-5 job. And he said to me, think about it. I'm like, there's no way you can put the time into this if you go back to that. And we have to talk about it a lot. And then we look at him so happy doing this. He can be with our daughter, do more family things. There has been times that he's like, I got to go back to work at 9 to 5, but then we think about it, we're like, you won't be able to do this. And it's finally like kicking up. It's finally, we're getting, nice. Event after event after event. Like every month he has lots of things lined up, and we're like, we just got to stick this out. It's going to pay off, and it's starting to now. It's finally starting to see it.
Yeah, it's finally getting to the level where I have to turn down gigs because I'm already booked for the day that they want.
Nice.
Right.
That's where you want to be.
I'm getting to the point where it's like, well, do I need to hire somebody to do a second gig on a day that I can't do it? So
I'm pointing at myself, by the way. If you guys gotta do that.
Like, here's a perfect example. This Saturday, I'm doing a drop off for pulled pork sandwiches and the sides.
I'm a very good driver, by the way. No tickets.
There you go.
For 60 some odd guests, and then from there we're doing a party of the same menu, but like a live catering party for 60 some odd guests.
Oh wow!
And the only way we were able to work that out is the first party said, "Well, yeah, we will take a drop off. That's okay."
Because they both want a live event. They want you there serving.
That's
They
right.
want the whole cutting thing. That's rare, like that they want a drop off. So one was like okay with the drop off. That way you could do the live event later.
Yep, exactly. And in fact, I think it was 2 weeks ago we did a taco party, and I had to cook extra meat at the party and send her to go take it to another party to drop it off, so we can fill in another
Genius,
order.
dude. I didn't even think about that because you're making everything right there anyways. So you're portioning it out so you can go deliver that too at the same time.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
bet you the taco people do the same thing.
I'm sure.
You know what I mean?
I'm
Because
sure.
they have a big old ice chest full of meat that they've already got chopped up. They're sending it off to one party, doing their thing right there, and then loading and going to the next one.
That's exactly it. So, but like I said, it's finally getting that steam. Like I was saying, we had those, that crazy 4-day string, but every week it's at least 2 events normally. So, getting it more and more, and then the catering events coming more and more often. And then now summer rolling around, like it's just,
Oh, summer's the hot time. The hot summer's gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
You got how is the pricing affecting you? The meat's going a little bit up. The gas prices, of course, you got to travel. Has it affected you a little bit?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. So the one thing that I disagree with most people, and it kind of goes back to my core feeling of everyone should eat and it should be accessible. I get told all the time that I don't price my food high enough. I get told by everyone, for what you're serving, for how good it is, and for what they're getting, you should charge more.
Yeah, well, I can agree. Your food is amazing. It should be like super high because it's so good.
I have a hard time charging a certain amount over what I feel like it should be worth for accessibility. And, Christy's telling me, a friend saying, your food's good and your time is worth X, Y, and Z. And so, the food cost thing is definitely a factor. I've had to raise my prices against what I would like to have done just because the sheer fact the cost of the goods has
Just to
gone up.
survive.
So.
Just to survive.
And
it's crazy.
luckily, most people are okay with it. They understand because their food bill at home is higher. So
Everything's good. Yeah, if you want a lollipop right now, it's going to be more expensive. Anything you want in the store, anything you want you have to drive a car, it's freaking almost impossible. Like, thank God you can do most of your work at home because the gas is so high, you practically can't even go to the office anymore.
We about a year ago, we did a party in Woodland Hills, which is far from here, obviously, from us in Santa Ana. It's about an hour and a half away. And it was a relatively small party. It was like 35 people, but they got tacos and bean cups and appetizers, and it was worth the time. It was, and we do a very nice taco setup. That's one of the things that we get told all the time is we went with you because you bring some style and you make it look nice.
Well, you're legit. If you look at the website, Vinegar and Smoke web.com, it's a legit catering company. It's all laid out. It's got the trays. Everything's really, really nice. It's not you're just like. I would imagine if you do a drop off, it's going to be a little bit more than like your normal average drop off looks like, right?
Oh yeah, it's packaged very nicely. We do trays, and it's all uniform bags, stickers, the whole.
Yeah, you got stickers. I saw that too. That you got
Yep.
stickers on your sandwiches
right, yeah.
and the burritos, everything you do.
So, Woodland Hills is far, but being willing to go out there was great for us because since then we've done a bunch of parties for that group of people.
Their little circle of friends just constantly call him for parties.
At least once a month.
That's huge. So I think you're able to get the volume because you're keeping your prices fair, and then your word of mouth, you're going to end up being able to do volume because people also could shy away from pricing too. If it gets too high, then they're like, number one, a lot of the customers could be struggling themselves. Number two, it becomes so cost prohibitive. I mean, I remember being able to hire a taco guy for 75 people would be like $300. That's never heard of anymore.
No.
Like you're talking like $600 nowadays. It's crazy.
I do to exactly the end of what you're saying right there. I do work with customers on basically custom menus based on their budget. Right? This is my package and this is the price. Right. And they say, well, I can't do that. Here's what I can do, price wise. And I'll say, okay, well for that, here's what I'll include. And all because like I said,
that's good because you could be like most of the guys. Well, because I mean I do deal with a lot of vendors for my office, and it's like, well, this is the price. It's barbecue. It takes a long time. Do you want it or not? That's pretty much the attitude.
And that's actually also why I do taco parties and barbecue, because barbecue is obviously much more expensive per guest than tacos.
Oh yeah.
You know, and that gives people like, okay, well, if you can't afford $25 per guest for this brisket platter that you want, how about this taco party that maybe is a little more in your range? For,
there you go.
know.
So they get an option. You get the gig too. You don't lose the gig. It's a killer. It's a positive.
I mean, we do more than just tacos and barbecue though. We do bacon wrap hot dog parties like LA style. You know.
Damn.
We do pasta bars. So, I mean, like pretty much like we've covered the gamut. Like the only thing that we really don't do is Asian food. I just don't know much about how to cook it.
Yeah, but that's crazy. So you do all kinds of catering things.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's gotten some crazy requests, and he's like, "Sure, I can do this."
Yeah,
Figure it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn,
Yeah, so.
that's awesome. That's all. And you learn all this stuff on your own.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, like I, not to toot my own horn, but I'm kind of a sponge when I like read something. Like it just kind of sticks in there for like ever, you know.
Get kind of like that engineering kind of mind. Like the way Eric does.
Yeah. Well, I went to before any of this. I went to Cal State Fullerton for some engineering classes. I didn't end up finishing, but definitely am into that kind of like analytical building, precise, you know, kind of thing. So.
Well, it happens like for me, like if you're putting together a table from IKEA, there's people that'll just put it together and like throw the thing aside, and there's people that like me and him, I bet you, will read the whole thing. Does he do that, Kris, before at Christmas? He reads the whole thing before he puts it together. Make sure all the stuff that says warning, warning, warning. He reads all that part before, because technical minds, if you read it like that, you can put it in your mind and then you can do it, right?
And that's what he does. He doesn't miss any. I'll scan through it, and then he'll read it, and then we're like, let's say we're working on something together. He'll say, "No, but the paper said this." I'm like, "I didn't see it," and it's there. And I'm like,
"Yeah." Because when we read it, we're just like scanning through it. He reads it like every single word, so you don't miss anything. And then that way, the hex bolt, it doesn't end up in the back. It actually ends up on the table.
Yeah.
These are extra pieces. That's what they're for.
Yep. It's always like, what
They're
extra
spares.
pieces? There's no extra pieces. That's crazy. But it comes in handy. Like in cooking, you know, obviously there's this art to it. There's this flow that happens, but there's a recipe for almost everything that's out there. There's a YouTube for everything that's out there. And in the YouTube, there's a description, hopefully, and there's a recipe there, and you can follow the directions. And if you follow it just right, and you kind of know how like fat works and how salt works and how different flavoring profiles work, you can pretty much be almost like a professor at this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of not being scared to experiment with some of the stuff like that you maybe are either not comfortable with or familiar with, or you know, some stuff is expensive. I'm not gonna lie. Like to make certain dishes for like a home cook who wants to make some stuff, right?
Yeah.
Going out to the store and buying a shitload of spices that you don't have might not seem like a great idea.
You're only gonna use it once, and then
Yeah, but the other half of that is now you have it. Now you have it, right? So now you can use it.
you can open up to other dishes.
That's
and
right.
different things.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, I honestly, one thing that I wish I had done at a younger age, I've liked cooking for a long time, but in my 20s, like most guys in their 20s, I didn't like have a robust spice cabinet, right? Like I had some lemon pepper and I had some salt and pepper, right? I had my Lowry seasoned salt and stuff. And
That's it.
That was it. You know, some Tabasco in there. And,
I at least had the spindle, like my mom bought me like the spindle thing.
Yep.
It had all the things like Italian spice, it had savory, it had all this stuff.
But I wasn't going out and buying spices, you know what I'm saying? Like I just wasn't on my radar. I think that if more younger people who are getting into cooking, or people in general, just, you know, went out and bought some spices, or like a variety of spices, and just started messing with them.
Just try tarragon, for example.
Right, yeah.
Tarragon is rarely used.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And just go for it, you know, just add some to a dish, or just Google that one spice and see what something that's commonly used in, and just go for it, you know what I mean? And like, it's a joy of cooking.
Oh, I have. Now my cupboards are full of stuff. Tarragon, all the different Indian spices, a bunch of different rubs that I get from different companies. Thank you guys for sending that to me. All the different things, and so I have no lack of. But you're right. Like finally, when you read the recipe and it says you need this, oh, I have that. I actually have it. Before it was like, dang it, I gotta go on Amazon and wait 20 days, right? Because I'm not gonna go to the store. I'm too lazy. So then you just don't even do the dish. Yeah, so it's awesome.
Yeah,
It's
that's
awesome.
exactly it. So
Okay, let's shift gears from cooking. How in the heck? Because You were born in Whittier. You spent some time in Austin. You come back to California. You're starting to do the cooking thing. When did you have time to be on country radio?
Oh man,
This is where we go.
the country radio actually was directly before Guitar Center. So I was a manager for JCPenney's. I ran the home department and the men's department in a store in SoCal here, and I absolutely hated it.
Working at why would you hate working at JCPenney's? Is it because it's such a boring store and very plain and quiet all the time?
Dude, I don't know what JCPenney's you've been to, but that's not. No, so here's the deal. And it wasn't JCPenney's per se as a company. I mean, it was, but it was more working that type of retail, right? I had done nothing but big box retail for almost my entire work life up to that point. I'd done some office work a little bit, and a lot of retail, a lot of BS, especially during the holidays, right? I can tell you some horror stories, man.
Dealing with people.
Dude, here's the thing. I like people. It started to make me not like people. And because you have those tiered things that you see at stores that have like shirts and stuff. Yeah. You got kids walking across just like literally knocking out a punch onto the ground. You look at their parent just shrugs their shoulder, walk away. They just sit down on a stack of clothes like your butt's been all over that now, man.
Oh man.
Wait, want somebody to buy this shirt now? And you can't say anything.
It's almost like being a cop. You see the dregs of society at JCPenney's. If you work at Walmart, if you are a cop, if you work at JCPenney's, you get to see the worst of people, of us.
It's just, and I'll tell you what, I would say that extends to almost any retailer. Like, it doesn't even matter how high class you are, because people can be trash sometimes, man. They just, it's not their home, they don't care. And so, I was just, doing that full time for so long, and it just like started to really grate on me. And I had always wanted to be on the radio from the time I was a little kid.
Oh wow. And
I just thought, I can remember listening to Mark and Brian on KLOS and thinking, man, that sounds like a freaking fun job. I just want to do that. And so I would practice commercials like, hey, you're listening to blah, 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 do the whole radio.
You got the voice.
And working at Penny's, you have to do store announcements and stuff, and I would have customers ask me, do you do voiceover? I'd have the associates ask me,
really?
And it kind of
So when you said pick up on aisle 9, it sounded so good people were actually coming.
We had people who thought the closing announcements were recording and stuff.
Oh, wow.
I had people, I would pick up the phone and I'd have people start hitting 0 to get to the operator. Thank you for calling JC, you know what I mean? And so
you're pressing the 0 on you.
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm a real person, I'm a real boy.
Like Pinocchio.
Yeah. So I was like, screw it. I know there's a radio school in Huntington Beach that specializes in radio. Yep.
Is it still there? Because I'm going to go tomorrow.
I would not recommend it.
Oh, there we go.
Other stories. But it's an accredited school. You graduate with a trade certificate in radio broadcasting.
Oh, what?
So
dope.
Yeah, so the same way you would go to a trade school for something else and you get a certificate that you are certified in that trade.
Oh, I didn't even know that existed. I'm over here going to Rio Hondo, getting journalism, trying to do all that crap.
I literally went through this program. It took me 7 months. I did it faster than you can do it. It's a lab type of thing where you do lab hours.
Oh, yeah.
And so I finished and I was doing a bunch of podcasting and a bunch of interviews and this and that. And working at Guitar Center, I know a bunch of people who are in successful bands and this and that, and lining up interviews with them to do.
Oh, so that made it easy because a good bunch of bands are coming in every day.
Totally, yeah. So getting that going was great, and then the school that I went to, they didn't really have job placement per se, but the people who ran it had been in radio for a very long time, and they had contacts at various stations. And so if a station that they were friends with had an opening of some kind, they kind of farmed it out to some of the better talent from the school.
Oh,
right?
Sweet.
And so, this little tiny station in Susanville, California, up in Northern California, the Northern Sierra Mountains.
Yeah.
They had an opening for a morning host, but they also needed a program director and a production director. I am, again, not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty good at production, especially radio production. Super easy, in my opinion. And so I sent my demo out to them, and a couple of days later, I got a call from the station manager, and we chatted for a few minutes, and she's telling me about the town. She's like, it's a very country town. It's there's a rodeo here, and
Nice, sounds great.
My house was 20 minutes from 4 different lakes, so it's like kind of a little
They have
bit
water up
backwards.
there?
Oh, dude,
That's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah.
I haven't seen water in years.
Well, it's been a long time since I was there, so it's no guarantees it's still there.
It might not be there anymore.
Yeah. And so, a few weeks later, I'm there, right? I just drive, at the time I had a Crown Victoria, I just piled all my stuff in there, and I just
Nice.
drove it up the mountain and found a place and, just did it. Just kind of moved away and
He took you up there with him, Kris?
oh, no,
We
this
were
is
together
this
on
is
that
before.
trip. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
this is before. This is 2012, maybe.
Oh, wow.
No, 2013. So I was there, and while I was there, it was a great opportunity. I was in a couple of parades. I hosted some local shows.
Were you driving in a car on the parade?
No,
or
I was
were
on
you
like a flatbread. I was like waving to the public with a PA announcement and talking to them about.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a good time. Did a bunch of cool stuff while I was there, and so they had like a bluegrass festival that I got to MC part of, and
Oh, that's awesome.
it was just a real good time. And I eventually just couldn't do it anymore. Like Susanville's 11 hours or so from here. It's like as far north as you can get and still be in California with like a town. You know what I mean?
Wow, 11 hours. So it's somewhere by Humboldt or something like that?
Dude, it's past. Do you know where?
It's past Humboldt?
Yeah, it's like the last town
The
before
last
you get
bastion before you get to Oregon?
Yeah, it's like you have to. So the town's quote unquote main street is actually the interstate that goes up to Oregon.
Wow.
Like it's when you're driving through the middle of nowhere and you're on a freeway or interstate, and then all of a sudden you're in a town.
That's it.
That's like that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a small place.
Wow.
And and I was literally like, no joke, one of 2 brown people who lived there. And after a while, I just wasn't never gonna fit in, and I was feeling like missing my family, my friends, and not feeling like I was gonna long term
Like make it home kind of thing? Or just wasn't feeling homey?
It's never felt like I was clicking in the community. I would
I was
have
feeling like you were the homie, but it wasn't home.
That's yes, sir. No, check it out. So I would do giveaways, right? And people would come to the station and be like, "You're here to meet Mike." I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And you should see the looks they would give me.
They're like, oh, damn it.
Yeah, so and like
He's Mexican.
you grin and bear it. You do what you can, but eventually it's just like, nah. What am I doing this for, right? So I decided to come back home, and when I got back, that's when I needed a job. And I'd always kind of wanted to work at Guitar Center. I'd been playing guitar for a long time. I thought, well...
Oh, you play guitar and stuff like that?
Yep, I've been playing for 23 years, 24 years, a long time.
Oh, that's awesome. So any musician like myself, when I play music, the dream job is to go to Guitar Center because you get to play all the guitars,
Yep.
play the drums, you can get discounts. It was awesome. My friend Kyle used to work there. He's freaking awesome.
So I talked my way into the audio department. Because I was like, well, I was just on the radio as a production program director.
I'm an expert at all this.
Yeah.
This is nothing to me.
Let me tell you about setting up rack units, and let me tell you doing all this hardware stuff, and so I got the job there, and that was great, and that kind of like opened up a good amount of doors as far as other fun stuff I was able to do. So
that's crazy. Now, how did you two meet? At the Guitar Center?
No,
So I see you're looking at the.
We met through
Guitar
Disney.
Center.
Yeah, we met through Disneyland.
Nice.
Yeah, we were both big Disney fans. So at that time, I had just broken up with a really long-term, kind of not a great situation. She similarly went through a breakup, and we
Divorce.
And we both spent a lot of time at Disney, and we have kind of mutual friends, and just kind of, we talked online before we met in person. And we met in person at Disney thinking like, okay, well, we both know the park, and at least if...
It's safe. It's the
Yeah.
happiest place on earth.
Yeah, I mean, look at her. So I thought, well, at least I'll have it out. But yeah, that's kind of like, that's it. So
That's awesome, man. Mike, you have some amazing stories. I don't think we're even done. I'm going to call it right now, but you are going to come back to the show, right?
Oh yeah, totally, man. Dude, trust me, I've got stories for days, and I will talk for as long as I can. So
Beautiful. We got some more stuff coming from you. Vinegar and Smoke, ladies and gentlemen. Find out Vinegar and Smoke on Instagram, vinegarandsmoke.com. Mike does all the catering that you want. You want tacos, you want hot dogs, you want freaking chimichurri, whatever type of barbecue you want, you can do it. VinegarandSmoke.com, Vinegar and Smoke on Instagram. Oh, no, TikTok too, right? Vinegar and Smoke on TikTok. Check it all out. We want you guys to use this catering. It's an amazing catering. Take it from me, tell them RaysFlavs sent you, and then if my wife likes it, you know it's good. So check it out. Thanks you guys for listening. Thanks Mike for coming out. Thanks Chrissy for coming out. Thanks Charlotte's having a great time back in the back of the son Caleb and jumping around the couches and everything like that. Guys, thank you for listening. Hey, don't forget, if you want to help support the channel, go ahead and click on that support button right there below in the description. For as little as $1 a month, you support this channel, and we would love to have you do that. Anything you need, hit me in the DM. We'll see you guys soon.